You also want to think about, how can I help my reader solve a problem or get more of what they want? And then you want to write your copy to that. And something you might hear of is a hook, which is sort of the first sentence or the opening where you grab the reader's attention. And if you can appeal to those emotional triggers in the hook, that's how you get people drawn in and to continue reading what you have to say.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited today because we are going to talk all things copywriting, right? And I'm so excited about this topic. And we actually have a special guest with us today. Her name is Andrea Hashard, and she is actually a sales copy expert. So she does copy that increases profits. And really what she loves to do is she wants entrepreneurs to stop spending so many hours writing copy and really just focus on filling their calendars with clients and programs. And she helps them write email sequences and sales pages that really attract their ideal client and make them say, heck yes, and click on this enroll button now. So please join me and welcoming Andrea Hashard to our platform. Hey, Andrea, how are you doing today?
Hi, Susanne. Thank you for having me today.
It's so interesting. There's copywriting and copyright. And, I want to start with just explaining what that is because, some of our entrepreneurs, depending on what they're in, if they're in the trades, more in that blue collar or even physicians or dentists, just kind of explain what this is. What is that compared to copyrights and so on and so forth?
Sure. So copy are the words that you use in your business. And those could be words on your website, words in a brochure, words that you're writing in emails to your list, really any words that you're using in your business. And then copywriting is using those words to convert customers into buyers, to getting customers or your readers to take action.
I love that. Taking your customer to the point that they take action.
Mm-hmm. And really, the action can be buying. Certainly that's an important one, but it can also be sharing. You're asking them to share a piece of content or to follow you on a social platform. So it doesn't always have to be buy. There are many calls to action, and we'll talk about those.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes that relationship doesn't start with buy here right now, right? Mm-mm. Maybe it starts with, let's get to know each other first. Let's start with hello and maybe just follow each other for a while. I'm curious. I know you had talked about there's 10 copy tips to increase conversions and increase profits. And here at Profit First, we're always trying to increase profits. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about how do we as entrepreneurs write great copy, write great ads, or write great articles, or even posts, right, these days, because that's used for marketing, that really converts and increases profits.
The first thing that I suggest that you think about is writing for your ideal customer. Oftentimes I see copy that's business or company focused versus customer focused. So if you think about the acronym WIFM, which stands for What's in it for me, your customers are always thinking about what is in it for me. So if you write your copy to that, you'll be more successful. People really care about what's in it for them, not so much, where the business is located, how many employees they have, but rather what they're doing, the transformation that they're providing to their customers.
I love that. I think too many times when I see posts that are being written, articles, especially from entrepreneurs, it does seem to be pretty one-sided. Like they're thinking about their day, they're thinking about their challenges. And I'm like, what's the purpose of this? Is the purpose to talk about you, or how are you going to help somebody else? And really thinking about that and really being able to target that communication in that way. So very good point on that.
And one thing that you can look at to evaluate your own copy to determine how customer versus company focused it is to look at where you're using the word I and we and substitute that for you and your. So that's one way to turn the focus from yourself as the business to your customer. And there are ways to check out website copy, like if you want to see how focused, where your web copy is focused. You can go to a customerfocuscalculator.com and put in your page URLs, and it'll show you where you rank with a percentage. And then as you change your copy and tweak it, you can see that number improve to where it is more customer focused.
I like that. So like almost like there's converters like between English and Spanish and like, having more professional grammar. And now you can see actually how focused your writing is actually on your target audience. That is really, really neat. What's the name of that website one more time?
It is customerfocuscalculator.com.
I love that. Customerfocuscalculator.com. What else can we do to increase our conversions and our profits?
My tip number 2 is to turn features into benefits. And again, businesses oftentimes focus on the features where what people really care about is the result. So you want to sell the result. And one way that you can do that to really dig down to determine what those are, what the benefit is to ask the so what question, where you look at a feature and you ask, so what? What does that mean? For instance, if a car manufacturer has an anti-lock brake system that's a feature, they could ask, so what? What does that mean for my customer? So a customer may not really care about the fine points of the braking system. What they want to know is that it's going to keep them safe. It's going to keep them from sliding on ice. It'll keep their family safe and out of the hospital. There won't be accidents if the braking system is working correctly. They're selling that feature over the benefit because that's what's really important to the customer.
I love that. Whenever I see those auto like commercials, they never go, yeah, and we have like brakes that look like this. And like, we have this is what it looks like on our hood. No. They focus on the family with the nice dog sitting on the leather seats, cruising down the mountains and what that would feel like if that was you, with that luxury car. But you're right. It's talking about, what are the benefits? What would it feel like to really get what you want? Right. And then, these people, there's advertisements are focusing on the benefit, what it feels like to actually be able to experience this and to invest in this area. That is a really great tip on that. Andrea, what else could we do to increase conversions and profits?
So you really want to tap into emotions. Emotions are what help to persuade audiences or watchers or readers. So you want to ask, how do you want your reader to feel? Could be an emotion like intrigued or curious. Do you want them to be inspired, maybe angry even, or excited? And then you also want to think about, how can I help my reader solve a problem or get more of what they want? And then you want to write your copy to that. And something you might hear of is a hook, which is sort of the first sentence or the opening where you grab the reader's attention. And if you can appeal to those emotional triggers in the hook, that's how you get people drawn in and to continue reading what you have to say.
I love that. Yes. I mean, who doesn't want a good hook, especially in the beginning? Let us know what we're reading, that is really, really important. No rambling, get straight to the point. What is it we're going to get out of this? Tell us about more tips to increase conversions and profits.
Sure. So another one is to write like you speak. And what I mean by that is to use a conversational and casual tone. You also want to make sure you're writing just to one person so that it seems like it's meant just for them and that you're not like writing to the masses, so that they feel like you're speaking directly to them. You want to use simple language that's jargon-free, not using big words, but writing more to a fifth grade level. And you can ask questions to interest and involve the reader in your copy. I recommend keeping sentences short. 13 words or less is a good sentence length. And then same thing for paragraphs, keeping those short to 3 or 4 sentences each. And then using contractions helps to make copy more casual and friendly. And then also using the audience's language, which is where you're listening to them. listening how they talk about their problems and describe things, and then using those same words and that language and emotion in your writing. And that will make them feel like you get them. It'll make them feel like you understand their problems and that you are their solution.
Oh, yeah, that is so important. I was reading a book, and it's not a business book, but it's Shonda Rhimes. Who doesn't love a good Grey's Anatomy episode? And she has this book called The Year on Yes, or A Year of Yes, or something to that effect. And I was reading the audiobook actually, and as she was talking, I was like, yes, I feel that way. Yes, I feel that way. But you're right. It's just being able to connect with your audience and talk about where they are, where they feel like, what is that state that they're in that makes them come to you? You're so right about that. It's so important, right? Especially when you're looking for your people, right? You're looking for people that resonate with that message. And tell us more.
Sure. So another tip that I have is to set a goal before you begin writing. And oftentimes I even recommend starting with your subject line or headline, and then thinking about what action you want the reader to take when they're finished reading, and actually write that call to action next, so that every word you write will be focused and have a purpose. Think about what you want your reader to know, feel, and do before you begin writing. And remember to start with that end in mind, and it's going to keep you focused.
I love that. I love that. Just really being succinct, especially if you're targeting, business owners or people that are extremely busy, which I think right now, most of the world probably qualifies in that category, right? Most of us are probably way too busy. And so it's important that every word matters, every word counts, and every word leaves you with that weight of impact.
Mm-hmm. And along those lines, it's really important that you write an effective headline or subject line. It's really the only chance you have to draw your reader in and to get your piece of copy read. And if you're spending the time to do the writing, you want for people to read it, right? So I recommend writing multiple versions of your headline or your subject lines. And I mean, you might think 10 is a lot, but I've written 20 or 30 headlines and subject lines to really get down to the gold. I feel like you have to write at least 10 for it to even be a contender. And it's amazing how they will improve just as you keep brainstorming and refining. And there are headline analyzers where, again, you can put them in online. I have two that I'll share with your audience. One is coschedule.com, and the other one is sharethrough.com. And that's where you can enter a subject line, and it'll give you a percentage score out of 100. And you can make changes right in that analyzer, and it'll show if your score improves or decreases as you make changes to your headline or subject line.
Interesting. Interesting. So many good, juicy nuggets here. Oh my goodness. And automation too, to make sure you put good work out in this world. Andrea, I apologize. I'm not sure which number we're on now, because I know we're going to do 10 copy tips, but I'll just ask what's the next one.
Sure. So it's sort of a continuation. We're on number 6, but back to subject lines. There's 4 important things to include in a subject line. And if you tick one of the boxes, you should be good. If you can tick more than one, even better. But you can make your subject lines urgent, which would be using words like today, now, quick, or ASAP, getting people to take action now, because if they don't do something now, they may not return to it. And then if you make your subject unique, which would be something fresh or surprising or interesting, again, to draw people in and to get them interested in what you have to say. The third U is ultra specific, which is where you're adding detail. You can sort of like let them know what they're going to get with a specific headline. And then you can also be useful, which is where you can be helpful, offer a benefit. You could give them like a list of tips or a guide of some kind. So those things strengthen your subject and headlines. I always recommend that you keep them short. And we talked about trying many variations to get to the best to get down to that best one. Sort of being simple and direct is helpful. You can make a bold claim as long as it's truthful. You can also use numbers or results in your headlines, which are effective in grabbing people's attention and getting them to read more.
Love it. Love it. Definitely. Who doesn't like a great statistic? Like 9 out of 10? Really? It might be happening to me soon. What else, Andrea, can we do?
So I mentioned call to action. So you want to always include a call to action in every piece of copy. Usually it's in the form of a button or a clickable URL link, and you have to give people the next step. And like I said before, it doesn't always have to be buy. It could be a share. It could be a follow. It could be a reply if you're asking for feedback. Could be a download if you're giving away a freebie. You want to be direct. I always recommend keeping calls to action short and use active language like buy now, reply. You're telling people what to do in an active way, in an active verb. You want to use power words, which are free or act now. You can hint at urgency. And one important thing is you want to use the same call to action throughout, because when you ask people to do more than one thing, or if they're confused, then it may cause them to not take any action. So if somebody's confused or they're not sure what you're wanting them to do, they may choose to do nothing, which isn't what we want. So what I recommend is using a call to action throughout, but the same one. So maybe you're sending them to a sales page. So every link would go to that sales page.
I love that. Buy now. If you haven't bought now, buy now again. I think you missed something. Definitely buy now. So keep putting that call to action throughout your customer's journey, throughout your website or your page, however they're funneling through. And then, Andrew, what else can we do?
Sure. Want to always check for typos and errors before you send out an email or your web page goes live. You can ask somebody else to read it for you. Ask them if there's something that doesn't make sense. Tell them to circle any errors, grammatical or typos that maybe they find. And then I always recommend reading your own copy out loud, because if you stumble over words or if something just doesn't read smoothly, it's an opportunity for you to change it and improve it before you send it out or before it goes live. And then there are also free tools, browser extensions you can use like Grammarly or the Hemingway app that can help improve your copy. They will help catch those typos and improve your grammar before it goes out. Those are very useful, and underline those changes, and then you can either accept or reject those. So it's really easy. It'll make the changes for you.
Oh, yeah. We can't have copy going out with typos. I'm like, come on, guys. Professional presence includes knowing how to spell. What else, Andrea, can we do?
So you want to make your copy easy to read. And what I mean by that is sometimes these are design elements that make things look easy to read. If someone looks at a wall of text, big pieces of copy, and it looks overwhelming or like it's going to take too long, people will just sometimes bounce, like they'll just click away and won't take the time. So there are some things you can do to make your copy look easy to read, one of which is using bullet points. Those are easy. I recommend making them short, using plenty of white space to kind of make the page or the copy look airy. So again, using short sentences, short paragraphs, just making things look easy to read will keep people on the page and keep people engaged longer. I always recommend checking images. If you're using pictures and you're putting copy on top, making sure that there is a contrast and that it's easy to read. Sometimes if a picture is dark and the copy's not light enough, if it's too difficult to read, people just won't take the time to try to figure it out, or they might be confused by your messaging. And then in terms of like type fonts, I recommend that you stick with a type font family and not use lots of different type fonts in the same piece. because that can be hard to read sometimes or even confusing. So type fonts do play an important role in making things look easy to read.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't be pulling us with some Wall Street Journal font. That's not nice. And definitely give us the cliff notes, like you said, the bullet points, that's going to quickly attract our attention. And let's not make it a science, paper. Very good advice and tips on that. Andrea, anything else?
Yes, I have two more. Tip number 10 is testing and tweaking. And this is where you're testing and tweaking your headlines and subheads, which we already talked about. Testing the length. Different audiences may respond to different lengths of text. And so you can test that. Also, testing the day of the week and time that your things go out, whether they be emails or social media posts or ads. Different audiences are available and reading at different times a day. So I recommend testing and tweaking those. And then also tracking and comparing your own benchmark. So if you're checking open rates, click rates, conversion rates, you want to, certainly there are industry standards, which kind of tell you how you're doing. But you want to track and compare yourself to your own benchmarks so that you can tell as things are improving or if they decline for some reason. And then my last tip is a bonus, and that is to use plenty of social proof. That could be in the form of testimonials, case studies, screenshots, maybe that you've taken of social media messages that you've received, and then use those throughout your copy. I feel like you can't have enough or use enough social proof because those are your customers talking about you and your company and showing the transformation and results that you've gotten for them. So I highly recommend, if you're not using social proof, to begin using it.
I love that. So many good, juicy morsels. And one of the things that really resonates with me is the word test, and testing your copy. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we don't embrace the concept of testing, that, we put all of our investment in this one egg of that, something that we really like, whether it be copy or an ad. And, it's about embracing that. It's not necessarily mistakes, but things are going to happen along the way that are not going to optimize our results. And so approaching everything as a test or an experiment really allows you to fail and be okay with that and get up and try again. So very, very good concept with that. And of course, testimonials. I mean, everybody's got to get one, right? Catch those happy customers, catch them when they're, they first get the result that they want and get that glow and project it in your copy too. So very, very strong advice that Andrea's given us today. Amazing advice. Andrea, I'm just curious, these were amazing, great tips about that I can definitely see what increase conversions, increase profits, and it's hard. Normally I want to ask you, like, where does it go wrong? And it could go wrong in any of these areas that you talked about here. If you could pinpoint one biggest mistake that happens with entrepreneurs, especially when it comes to copywriting and targeting their ideal audience, what would you say that would be as a professional in this industry?
Sure. I would say being clear and specific. Oftentimes, when I read a headline, for instance, it's not clear enough or specific. And once you make those changes, being clear by who it's for and what it is, and once you get clear on that, then it begins to convert. So I would suggest making sure that you're being clear and very specific, because if there's any confusion, people don't want to work. They don't want to work at understanding. And if something's confusing, they'll just kind of zone out or click away. So you just want to make sure that you're really clear and specific and also concise, because again, people don't want to read blocks of text and try to figure things out.
Oh, yeah. Make it easy for us, make it easier for us to see what you want us to do and understand what you're selling. I've seen some things out there. It's like, oh man, this needs to be in a science, magazine or something, a thesis paper or something. So definitely make it easy for us. Now, Andrea, as we wrap up our episode today, and this has been an amazing episode of really amazing information on how to write really great copy. If I could ask you if you could leave our audience with one piece of advice, can be personal or it can be business, what would that advice be?
So I guess a business hack that I use that I love and didn't find out until recently is scheduling my emails. So I'm a Gmail user, and I didn't know for a long time that I could schedule my emails to go out. So if I'm working on a weekend, for instance, and I want to send a client an email, but I maybe don't want them to know I was working on it on the weekend, I'll just schedule it to go out so I don't forget, and they'll get that email Monday morning rather than over the weekend.
I love that. Yeah, don't bother us on the weekend. Let us enjoy our weekend. But that's a great idea to schedule things out. Really great advice on this. Now, Andrew, how can our viewers, how can our listeners contact you? How can they learn more? How can they work with you on getting amazing copyright?
Sure. So I would suggest visiting my website, which is Andrea, Andrea, Hashart, my last name, HASCHART CARRD.co.
Thank you. And what I'm going to do for you guys that are driving is I'm going to leave Andrea's information in our show notes so that when you get to that place that you can pull over safely or you're at your desk, you'll be able to look her up and contact her. Thank you, Andrea, so much for all the amazing, juicy morsels that you've just bestowed upon us today.
You're welcome, Susanne. Thank you.
Thank you.